27 questions to a Russian, but first let's get somewhere beautiful to stay. We just got here to a random lake a little bit far away from the city, and it got so cold unexpectedly. But anyways, have some questions to answer. Let's get started with that.
Can you include a map of Russia marking the cities you have visited and videoed for us?
Of course I can make this map. So here is the list of all the places I visited across Russia, and here are my favorite ones.
Have you ever traveled on the Trans-Siberian Railway? I would love to. Is there any place in Russia that you haven't visited but would like to?
I have traveled Trans-Siberian from Vladivostok to St. Petersburg with many stops. It took me about 2 months, and I recorded videos for the first part of this trip. Exactly, Vladivostok, Khabarovsk, by the way, hi Natasha's from Khabarovsk, and many other places in Russian Far East. I'll put a link to the playlist over here. You can watch my vlogs from there. And talking about the places where I haven't visited in Russia, I would really like to go to Kamchatka. That is such kind of wild adventure. I haven't been to that region of Russia yet, and I'm really excited to go there someday. Although it's quite costly to go there and needs some preparation.
Can you tell me about Russian children? What percentage attend school? What grade do most children finish? Do most children want to go to college after the lower grade classes? Do most children aspire to be a profession like a lawyer, a doctor, or scientist? Hugs.
Absolute majority attend school. Absolute majority finish and graduate 11 years in school, and absolute majority of children then go to university. It's still such kind of standard across the entire country. So I have been to university, I dropped off. All my friends, like every single one of my friends, studied or studying at university right now, and it's rather a rare exception when somebody in Russia does not study at a university. Какая твоя средняя оценка в школе была?
4.
А у тебя?
4.
Ты училась в универе?
Сейчас учусь.
А ты?
Сейчас учусь.
А как думаете, большинство людей в России, они после школы идут в универ сразу или как-то по-другому свою жизнь устраивают?
Ну, у нас есть стандарт, что надо сразу после школы, сразу в универ, отучиться и работать.
Ну, мальчишек, если не получается, то идут в русскую армию.
Most of people, they study for relatively good grades, and we have the 5-grade system in Russia, like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and I was mainly studying for 4s and 5s. We call it хорошо and отлично, good and excellent. Расскажи, кем ты хотела стать, когда ты училась в школе?
Я хотела стать ветеринаром. Хотела открыть свою ветклинику, вот, и забирать бездомных животных и лечить.
А ты?
Я хотела стать рок-звездой.
Реально ли учиться в универе на бюджете?
Да, вполне реально. Главное сначала получить большие баллы по ЕГЭ. Вот с этим сложнее, потому что в институтах очень большой конкурс зачастую, и нужны какие-то дополнительные баллы. Вроде конкурсов, олимпиад, научных работ, возможно. Вот, но так, да, довольно реально.
Ты на бюджете учишься?
Нет.
А ты?
Нет.
А ты на бюджете училась?
Да.
What kind of music do Russians like? Give me some of your favorites.
Talking about music, I'm that kind of person that can listen like a lot of different kind of music, sometimes classical, sometimes Russian rap music. Among my favorite Russian groups is Zemfira, Mumi Troll, and one of my recent groups that I like is Noise MC. Talking about foreign groups, I cannot recall very much, but here's a list of groups that I actually like quite a lot. And let's go ask my friends what do they think about it.
Классный вопрос, наверное. Ну, это не группа, исполнитель, но из MC. Вот. Наверное, то, что мне ближе всего. Но так и не могу назвать кого-то одного.
Ром, а у тебя?
Я не знаю. У меня очень много любимых групп. Я слушаю почти все. Почти всех.
Любишь Нойза?
Да.
Can you recommend some Russian literature? Classical and present day?
So I'm actually not that much into Russian literature, and when I was a middle and high school student, I was pushed so much to read Russian classic literature, and I think after that time I was like not very curious about reading that, although there are some books that I find quite interesting. First is Ilf and Petrov, 12 Chairs, and also Master and Margarita by Bulgakov. I find this quite interesting to read.
Моя любимая книга — это Николас Спаркс «Дневник памяти». Это была вообще первая книга, которая погрузила меня к любви к чтению.
Мне нужно время на такой вопрос.
Мастер и Маргарита. Классная классика.
Из научпопа «Вагина» Вирджинии Вульф, а из художественной Пелевин, Чапаев и пустота.
What do you think are aspects of Russian culture you would want humanity of 100 years in the future to adopt? Are there any current Russian philosophies or attitudes you wouldn't want to see in a future human civilization?
This question is super interesting. I would say there are some things that I like in Russian culture and some things that I dislike, but if picking only one for each side. First, I would really like to see the world adopting the Russian hospitality kind. And talking about the negative things, something that I would like to get rid of our culture is the poor mentality, or something like crab bucket mentality. You know, that tale about like a bucket of crabs. If one tries to get out of the bucket, or the rest of crabs, they will try to like catch him and take it down. So in Russia we have such kind of mentality. Что тебе очень нравится в русских людях, которые ты хотел бы видеть во всем мире?
Наверное, искренность. Ну, типа, они такие прям... Часто, к сожалению, это граничит с бестактностью, но они могут прямо сказать, вот, прямо сделать. И если с первого взгляда многие русские люди кажутся очень суровыми, если познакомиться с ними ближе, большинство из них очень душевные, готовы там тебе помогать, поддерживать, но для этого нужно войти в их доверие.
Отзеркалим вопрос. Что бы ты не хотела видеть в русских людях?
Грубость и хамство, которые, особенно вот в рабочих сферах, то есть кондукторы, кассиры, везде, кроме самых крупных городов, тебя спокойно могут обхамить в автобусе, просто потому что ты не понимаешь, как правильно оплачивать. Но это трэш, конечно.
Я к этому присоединяюсь. Уровень бытового хамства иногда очень велик. Скажи одну вещь, которую ты очень любишь в русских людях, которую хотела бы видеть в людях из других стран.
Душевность, гостеприимство, искренность. У нас кайфовые челики.
Foods from Russia that taste good but would be considered weird out of Russia.
Хинкали?
Холодец и молоки.
Окрошка, ребят.
Оно вкусное.
Окрошка.
Оно нормальное.
С квасом, чего?
Я не люблю окрошку с квасом, поэтому...
Я люблю окрошку с квасом.
Я не люблю окрошку с квасом.
Я люблю.
I have discovered how much Russian cultural food and Polish food is alike. Your thoughts on that?
I'm not sure exactly how Russian and Polish culture are alike or not, but Slavic culture, Slavic food stuff is actually quite similar in my opinion. And here's a shout out to all the Slavic guys. I'm going to name 5 meals and tell me if such kind of stuff exists in your country. If you have anything like пельмени, or вареники, or блины, or борщ, or сырники. I think we all have such kind of meals, and that's pretty much common.
I'm curious as to how old you are, Niki, and what personal memories you have of Russia growing up and how things have changed since, say, the 2000s versus 2010s versus 2020s.
I'm 27 years old, and although I lived some portion of my life with Putin not being a president, but I cannot remember much from my childhood. I remember that it was not wealthy at all. It was really poor time for my family, and I remember that in the first years of Putin being our president, the financial situation for majority of people in Russia actually improved, and it was improving until age of 2008 or 9, and after that time it came back to like not as good situation as before. I actually made a live stream talking about my childhood, how I grew up in Siberia, so you can find it right here.
What's the biggest difference between where you grew up and where you live now?
The biggest difference between the place where I grew up, the city of Omsk in Siberia, a huge city very close to Kazakhstan border, and St. Petersburg city, the second biggest city in Russia, also the most beautiful city in Russia, where I live right now. So the biggest difference between them is the speed and the opportunities of the city. Every single time when I come back to my hometown, I don't really see many changes. Of course, there are some positive changes. There's one street got better, there's one new building here, one new building there, but in general I do not see any huge difference in the cities. And talking about St. Petersburg, it is growing quite fast, and also there are a lot more any kind of cultural and entertaining events. I really enjoy this about St. Petersburg.
Most of the comments that you get are super nice and friendly, but I've seen a few rude/mean ones. How do you deal with rude comments?
I read comments a lot, like literally every single day when I have my morning tea or coffee. I open YouTube and try to reply to some comments, and I see a lot of nice stuff, I see a lot of interesting stuff, and I see a little bit of hateful stuff. Of course, there are some comments like that, and especially during the last 3 months when we started to have like much more hate towards Russian people than before. But honestly, I don't feel any pressure, I don't feel any sad emotions receiving such comments. Simply, I just don't care much about them. I don't reply, I simply have no reaction to that.
Like and subscribe, guys.
Guys, that is the proof to my words about Russian hospitality. Just 3 hours later, we were coming back home and our car's tire was just broken, exploded, and just a random stranger gave us this kind of thing, you know, to push the car and to change the tire, the wheel. So Russian people, very hospitable.